Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am April Sunshine Swinton, and I am honored and uber excited to be joining you at PNC16. Thank you to Dr. George Frazier, founder of the Power Networking Conference. He has put together a phenomenal, awesome team of experts that have provided us with a platform to connect, to share our knowledge, and to reach deep within our communities to enrich, equip, and empower one another, again, our communities, and our future generations. I thank those of you who are joining me here today at Sunshine's Virtual Conversation Corner. Thank you so much for being here with me today. The topic of today's virtual conversation corner is diabetes slayers, breaking the chains of diabetes shackled to Black America. Today, I'll go down the path with you of my diabetic story. I'll share with you systems I incorporated and some of the techniques I developed into the diabetes slayers to take me from a life of living with type 2 diabetes to a lifestyle that is now diabetes free. So let's go in and let's find out what becoming diabetes free is. First off, what are the diabetes slayers? The diabetes slayers are key combinations of natural foods, exercise, mind, body, and habit building techniques. This is what I call a diabetic compass. My family's diabetic compass was all over the place. See, the needle on this compass is one that I want you to understand and really get in your mind that this is, if you're diabetic, you have one too, that it lets you know if you're heading in the right direction when it comes to diabetes. Your diabetic compass, everyone's is different. Some people, they have very little complications, while many people have a needle pointing them in the wrong direction. They may be heading towards a myriad of diabetic complications without being aware of it. Since many symptoms of other diseases caused by diabetes oftentimes don't manifest until the damage is already done. My family's diabetic history, quickly, I was born into a family with multi-generational diabetes. My siblings and I were born to parents who were diabetics before we were even born. I had my own diabetic compass. And see, the needle on my compass, it was pointing southward. It was going and it was guiding me in the wrong direction. And I decided that I wanted my needle to point northward. I mean, my needle I had me scared because diabetes was something that alarmed me because of my family history. And I was told at the age of 15 that I would become a diabetic. And I literally waited for the other shoe to drop. I sat and I waited. One of the things that alarmed me so much about diabetes goes back to when I was 8 years old. And my father had to teach me how to give him an insulin injection. It was a life-saving insulin injection. He told me two things. He said, one, if I can't administer this to myself and you can't give it to me, I can die. He said, but two, when you do give this to me, you have to know, you have to do it right. He said, because if there's an air bubble in the syringe and you inject it in me, I can die. Can you imagine that at 8 years old, I had to learn quickly how to do it the right way. So that made me fear what the doctor said was coming down the path for me. Well, as time went on, I began to see my parents develop other complications due to diabetes, other diseases due to diabetes. One of the things was blindness. Do you know that among people with diabetes, diabetic retinopathy is the most common cause of vision loss, and it's the leading cause of impairment and blindness among adults 35 and over? Diabetic macular edema, known as DME, is swelling in an area of the retina called the macula. It is a direct result of diabetic retinopathy. My mother suffered with both, so I saw it firsthand. And you know what? As time went on and I started to do research, you know what I wondered? How many millions of diabetics do you think suffer job loss, causing financial loss due to going blind? Make sure you pick a high number because it's a very high number. The next thing I saw was kidney failure. Both of my parents had kidney failure, also known as renal failure. Both of my parents did hemodialysis. My father did peritoneal dialysis. But one thing he was fortunate enough was to receive a kidney transplant, which means that he was bad enough to receive a kidney transplant, but he was fortunate enough. I am eternally grateful to the person who signed their donor card, because that person, they enabled my father to live an extra 6 years. Now, one of the things I think about, and I want you to think about and really, really grasp it, how many billions of dollars have been invested in treating the symptoms of diabetic failure, kidney failure, while very little is spent on preventing diabetic kidney failure. That's a number I would love to hear, because I know it's very high. Another thing that's prevalent in our community is diabetic lower extremity amputations, known as LEA. Diabetic limb amputation is highest amongst the Black communities in the United States. According to Dartmouth Atlas Project, the southeastern states have a rate three times higher than the national rate of amputations. In Tupelo, Mississippi, the amputation rate amongst non-Black patients is 4.7%, while amongst Black patients, it is an alarmingly high rate of 16%, over 16%. One of the things I want you to understand is that this disparity is by design. Are your loved ones, or someone you know currently a part or soon to be a part of that disparity? See, my dad, he fell into it. He was a part of that disparity. He had his leg amputated. I remember just seeing him go from swelling to fluid to open sore, and then his leg was gone. What I want to know is, how much income do you think we lose in the Black communities when our people suffer lower limb amputations? Diabetes is a $245 billion industry. The majority of that money flows from the Black communities. But this is not improving our livelihood. People are becoming wealthy from diabetes, while Black people are becoming poor in health and poor in wealth, because we are accepting blindness, loss of kidney function, and amputation as an inevitable family heritage. Well, I'll tell you this, After I began to suffer complications from diabetes while I was still in my 30s, I knew I was on the path I had seen my parents live. I did not, I did not want to live that way. I heard many, many times over the years that diet could make my condition better. So I began to actively seek natural alternatives to taking medication. One of the things I want you to think about, I want you to really look at that picture of me on the left. I was at my highest weight right there. I looked at that photo after it had been taken, and I decided I did not want to be that person. I did not want to go down the path my parents had gone down. I evaluated the way I approached my condition. I took a hard look at the lack of knowledge I had about diabetes. And I realized one thing: my mind was programmed to see diabetes the way my parents saw it. I believe the complications and other diseases associated with diabetes were just inevitable. How many of you right now think you just have the sugar diabetes and you gloss over the severity of your condition? Well, I did the same thing until I began to educate and inform myself. I invested time and finances into finding a new way. The answers to my questions, I knew they were out there. I searched until the answers found me. I changed the story, encoded and programmed into my mental GPS. I sought new information to program into my GPS to get me to my desired destination. You know what that was? Being healthier while not taking medication. Little did I know that when I began this new journey, that I, April Swinton, would become diabetes free. When I reprogrammed my mind, my mental GPS, my life began to change. My health improved drastically. I even lost 72 pounds, and that wasn't part of my plan. My story began to change and shift for the better. I've shared my story in interviews, podcasts, live streams, and in the above commercial. I was honored to share my story. Yet, not a day goes by where I don't think about and wish I could have shared what with my own parents, the knowledge I have acquired about diabetes and about reversing diabetes. They may have been able to prevent so many of the challenges they faced, as well as the conditions they suffered with. Now it's time for you to change your diabetic compass. It's time for you, your loved ones, your friends, your family, and your communities to close this volume of life, to become the person with the pen, the person writing the pages of a new story in advance. Let's reveal the way you can begin today to input new destinations into your mental GPS, thus changing the direction your compass needle is pointing. We do this first by refocusing your mental GPS. Let's get rid of what we've learned. Let's find some new. And the first way you do that, the first step is diabetes, is natural foods. So the first diabetes slayer is natural foods. This is what I call my Diabetes Slayer Natural Foods Knowledge and Action Map, also known as the DSNF CAM. This is where you put your mental zoom lens on to take a laser focused, up close look into your body, your home, and your life. Let's look through the DSNF CAM to zoom in on the first step along the path to diabetic freedom. This is the FBR dance. This is where we discover how the body responds to certain types of foods. Here, you'll discover how the nutrients from foods that your body needs to absorb to function, how those nutrients interact with the enzymes your body uses to break down the foods to extract the nutrients. I know I said a mouthful, but understand it is an awesome process. And the cycle, when it's mastered, will have your body functioning at the highest levels. Can you recall a time when you had something to eat or drink that made you feel energized? Well, that's your body doing what I call the bird dance, the body's internal revitalization dance. Your body gets excited when it receives blood pumping, cell jumping goodness. The next step along the path is called the red zone. In this zone, you remove, empty, and dump the foods you want to get the foods you need. The final look into the DSNF cam puts us on the path to the food lifestyle plan, which is your food guide to your long-term goal markers. You map out the benefits you want to receive from foods, then you buy the necessary foods to accomplish your goals. It flips the script on how you see food. You go from seeing food as a source to just feed your hunger to using food as a source to fuel, energize, and give longevity to your body. Your food menu is a daily and weekly list of meals to consume on specific days. So let's quickly jump in and let's zoom in with our DSNF cam to get a brief understanding of fiber. We're just going to do a little learning here. Now, fiber is a type of nutrient that doesn't break down completely, nor does it get absorbed into the bloodstream quickly. Since some of the fiber passes through your digestive system still intact, very little fiber gets converted into sugar. Insulin's not required to digest fiber. There are two types of fiber, soluble and insoluble, and both are good fibers. Can you think of a time when you've been to a food store, shopping, and you saw this food is fiber rich on a package? Or have you seen an advertisement on the TV that touts the benefits of fiber in processed food? Understand that most refined processed foods have no nutritional value. They are full of empty calories and lack nutrients such as fiber. Natural foods are nutrient dense, and the more fullness you feel, the less inclined you'll be to eat between meals. It's a tip. Now we're going to talk about carbs quickly. People have been led to believe that all carbs are bad for them. Yet your body needs carbs to give you fuel. You just need to know the right carbs to put in your body. So let's quickly look at berries. Berries are excellent. They give you a 1-2 punch of goodness. One, they are naturally low in sugar, and two, they're a source of fiber, which slows the absorption of glucose into the bloodstream. Did you know that leafy greens are a source of good carbs for your body? I didn't know that a few years ago. Now, they are what I like to call LGGs, leafy green goodness. Popeye ate spinach and it made him strong. What can LGGs do for you? Now, the red zone is simple. The only way to truly change your eating style is to remove and replace the foods that are not in line with your natural food lifestyle. Let's empty the food pantry, the fridge, and your secret hiding places of all refined processed foods and junk foods. Pack up the foods that can be given away, share them with your local church, school, or neighborhood food pantry, because there are many people who have a need for food to feed themselves and their families. Finally, in our DSNF cam, got our map going, the way the body responds to certain foods is the only way for you to maximize your food lifestyle plan. Now, your food lifestyle plan is simple. You design what your goals are for the month, and then you design a plan accordingly. And then you design and you plan for the week, and then you design and you plan for your days. Now, let's go do our quick Slayer strategy sessionaire. So it's the Slayer strategy session questionnaire. It should be called sessionaire. And here we are now just going to look at where are we now, where do we need to be, and how do we get there? What challenges are you currently facing with your diabetes? That's the where you're now. What goals do you want to see for yourself? That's where do you need to be, and how do you get there? Let's give you a quick example. If your challenge is a high A1C, your goal is to be in a healthy range, and how do you get there? Those are the key things you need to determine. The next step in the diabetes Slayer, step number 2, is exercise, which is quite self-explanatory. See, if 85% of diabetics are overweight, that means you may fall into that overweight category. So let's get the heart pumping. Let's get it going. Let's get out there and get that exercise moving. Get your body moving. Diabetes Slayer session number 2 is going to be just as number 1, but you're going to do it with your challenges for exercise. Let's move on to the last step, which is step number 3, positive mind, body, and habit building techniques. This is where you begin to reprogram your mental GPS. You may be thinking, how do I reprogram my mental GPS? I didn't even know I had a mental GPS. Well, what am I reprogramming? I'll give you 3 keys to the most important steps I use to reprogram my mental GPS, which helped me completely refocus my internal compass. The first step is to feed your mind. So how do you do that? Through positive thoughts, through positive images. See, the first step is your mind. You have to feed your mind. But you can't feed it negativity because you won't grow. The second step is to love your body. How do you love your body? Through love words and love actions. The third step is to install positive habits. How do you do that? You do it by intentionally focused thoughts and intentionally repetitive actions for a minimum of 21 consecutive days. So, same session strategy, except there's a difference here. Here, we do the do what, flow what, through what.